This is the Purple Passion Project with host and clinical sexologist, Dr. Stacy Friedman. This is your go-to podcast for raw, real, and irresistibly juicy conversations about sex, intimacy, connection, and everything in between. Whether you're feeling a little stuck in your love life, curious about what turns you on, or just craving conversations that actually matter, you're in the right place. So now, please welcome the host of the Purple Passion Project, Dr. Stacy Friedman.
What do you get when you mix purple, passion, and permission to be your true self? This podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Stacy, and this is the Purple Passion Project, coming to you live and unfiltered. This is the show where we talk sex, intimacy, connection, and everything underneath the surface, because let's be honest, small talk is boring, and you are here for the good stuff. So relax, drop your guard, and get ready for truth, laughs, maybe a few gasps, and a whole lot of passion. So today's guest is a brilliant, bold, and completely in tune with her mind, body, and science. Amethysta, also known as Amy, is a Ph.D. chemist, a certified hypnotist, and a sensual explorer, transgender woman who just celebrated her Hoochiversary, which is the 1-year anniversary of her vaginoplasty. So we're taking her from the lab to the bedroom, and she is here to share her powerful story of transformation, pleasure, how identity is not just a queer issue, it's a human one. So get ready for some juicy information, some wild insights, and honesty, conversation about post-op orgasms, science of gender, and what it means to feel everything. So we're going to bring, let's see where we're going to get her on here. There we go. Hello.
Hello. Hi. My gosh, I've never had such a good introduction.
Well, great. Well, listen, purple has to be special, right?
It does.
We were saying we're also purple.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. There's so much just, if anybody's watching this, it is all over the place. Yeah.
It's all over the place. It's so awesome. I love it. Always love when you can find people that you align with and that love purple.
Right.
Anyway, so thank you for being here. And I wanted to just take you back to the beginning. And when we're talking about gender, when you realized that you were not aligned with your gender, give us a little background.
I can remember being maybe 4 years old, maybe 5, when, I could look at my sisters and just thought, well, I'm the same as them. And I mean, of course, this was the 1970s. So, I'm not the youngest, Does that work? I don't think this metaphor works. The youngest tool in the shed. I was about to say that. I don't think that works.
We're going to make up a new one. So sure, it works.
Perfect. So this was the early 1970s, and my parents were treated me differently than I felt. And I would say that I was well aware of the disconnect anyway by that point in my life, 4 or 5 years old. Certainly by the time I was about 8, maybe 10, it was really clear that I had this disconnect between who I knew I was and how the world treated me.
Right.
Yeah. And more than saw me was we have these, Western societies so big on, well, everything has to be blue. Oh, you've got this blue this and blue that. And believe it or not, actually, I really loved purple when I was a kid. This isn't just a new thing.
Right.
But I couldn't really have it because, purple was a girly kind of thing, and nobody wanted me to be at all girly. And then puberty set in. Oh, wow. That was, yeah. When I'm already uncomfortable, when I already feel completely disconnected from my body, one of the last things you need to do is have your body change completely and your whole social system change completely. It was a very traumatic time for me. And I just, as a super quick aside, this story here, in Western society now, particularly in the US, let me say that,
Right.
we want to restrict gender affirming care from youth because we say they don't know. But the thing is, most of us do. It's untrue. It's not This is not something that we go into lightly. Any of us, all of us, figure out who we are. And I would say easily by the time you're 12 years old, 13 years old, 14, you know enough about yourself to make some of these decisions. I certainly did. And I knew by about 12 years old that ultimately I would transition gender. It did take me a while to get there, but
Yeah.
but I knew I would. So those are the early days in a nutshell.
I mean, it's like saying to people, well, when did you know that you were straight? You know, I know that gender and sexuality are different constructs, but you know, you hear that with people that are gay or lesbian or anything. They'll say, well, when did you know? It's like, well, I just knew I wasn't attracted to someone of the different opposite sex. Same thing with gender.
Right.
Like you just feel like you are just doing what you're doing. And when you're young, it's almost more pure. And it's almost more,
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like it's something that we have to listen to.
Yeah. It's less of a performance. I mean, as we get older, you know, we want to blend into our environments, right? And so we'll do whatever the other kids are doing. You know, we're going to get a nose piercing. We're going to do whatever the other kids are doing. When you're 8 or 10 years old, I don't think there's much performance there. And so I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's I think it's much more pure. I also believe that there's a pretty strong connection between gender and sexuality, but we can get into that later, Ms.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely. And so as you were figuring things out, how did you notice that emotionally you were dealing with things? Because I'm sure that, like you said, as you were getting older, you were being treated and looked at differently that didn't seem to match with what you were and versus your sisters and things like that. So what was that experience like?
Ultimately, what I learned to do is, which is what every transgender person does, is mask. Every autistic person, same. We learn, and I'm not equating the two. I'm not equating being transgender with being autistic, but we learn just not to express who we are. We shut it down.
Shut down.
Yeah, and I, you know, certainly until I would say I shut it down. I guess I didn't shut it down very well. I mean, when I was in high school, I would stay home from school and I would dress in my sister's clothing. When I was in undergraduate, I was certainly dressing in women's clothing then. And it wasn't until I got to graduate school, I had moved across the country. So I grew up in Southern California, which you can tell when anybody says the word California, I can tell if you grew up there or not. But there you go. So I grew up in Southern California, LA. Grew up in LA, went to San Diego for my undergraduate, and then I moved across the country to go to University of Georgia. And the size of the city, the size of the town, I don't know what to call it. It was a huge culture shock.
Oh, huge. Okay.
It was a huge, huge culture shock. And because it was like 70,000 people, 70, something like that, 60, 70,000 people.
Going from LA to Georgia is
oh yeah. I mean, I met people in Georgia. They said, "Oh, I came from a hometown. My hometown has, 1,200 people in it." And I went,
"Yeah, that's my street."
I was like, "That's my high school graduating class." It was like, "Is that for real?"
Yeah.
So it was a huge, huge culture shock. And I had no friends, and really all I did was, I thought to myself, "What do I have to lose?" Really. And so I embraced everything about myself. I can remember waking up. It was like a Saturday or something. It does make a difference what day. But I was looking out the window and I went, "Oh my gosh, I like both men and women." And there's a word for that, and it's bisexual. I use pansexual now, but
right.
I said, and that's great. And all of a sudden, like this weight just kind of lifted from my shoulders. I went, I can be bisexual. That's great.
Right. I can breathe.
Yes. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. That's because I am both part woman and part man. And there's a word for that, which is, I don't know. I'll figure it out later because I didn't really have one. It was 1994, I guess. So I was 24 years old. And, I accepted it completely. That doesn't mean I was happy about it, but I accepted my sexuality and my gender wholly and just said, perfect. Now I can be who I am. And I really threw myself into, my gender expression, my sexual expression when I was in graduate school. And then I got married. That was not a great idea, because then I had to shut it all back down again. And then I graduated. And so then I was in industry and I had to shut it all back down again. And that continued on and on until ultimately 3 years ago, well, about 4 years ago now, when the mask slipped, I suppose, or the mask cracked. I don't know what
Right.
what metaphor I choose, but it's, you can only go on so far. You can only go on so far. The main thing that happened there, though, just to give an indication of how well we learned to mask. So I got married again. I got married in 2007 to a woman I met in 2000. And I should mention too, on our very first date, we went to this nice Italian restaurant. I went back to Los Angeles after graduate school. So we went to this nice Italian place in LA and for our first date, and we sat down and I said, so tell me everything bad about yourself and I'll tell you everything bad about myself. And
It's a good way to
two
start
of the
it,
things,
get it out of the way.
we figured better to learn this up front than like have
Right.
right. Like you're about a year in or something, and you go, "Oh my gosh, really? Is that really you?" So,
Tell me if you
all right,
murdered
we better back
anybody
up.
first, and then I'll let you know about me.
Right. So I told her I'm both pansexual and transgender, and the words I had at the time, which were not those two, is bisexual and a transvestite. And she said, "Oh, that sounds interesting. I'd like to see that sometime." And I went, it's probably not true, but okay.
Okay.
But she knew very well that I expressed femininity, and I think she embraced it. Really, I don't, we would, well, anyway, she allowed me to express my femininity, and we went on 14 years. I'm trying to think how long, but then she got pregnant, and I knew very well I was going to have a girl, right? My father had 4 sisters. I have 3
Oh, wow.
sisters.
Lots
Of
of
course
girls.
I'm going to,
Yeah.
yes, of course I'm going to have a girl, but I didn't.
Oh.
It was, I remember being at the, what's it called? The
Okay.
sonogram person. What's
Yep.
the,
Ultrasound technology.
thank you.
I was
Yes.
for 26 years.
Oh,
I
perfect.
did
You know very well.
sound for 26 years. Yep.
All right, there you go. So the ultrasound tech it goes, oh, well, here we go. Look, I'm a boy. And I went, because now I'm like, what the flying hell am I going to do?
Right. How am I going to express and raise a boy in this world?
Right. Because I was in my head, and whether or not this is true, this was the mantra that was running through my head. Boys need fathers, and fathers are men.
Right.
Fathers are not whatever the hell I am. And I wasn't sure how to describe that, but they are not what I was. And so I had to bury that. I said, I can't be that. I've got to throw it all away. I've got to let it go. I've got to push it so far down, it never comes back up. And I will just tell you flat out, when you do that to a core piece of your identity, of course it does. It comes back up and it hurts the whole time.
It's almost like it comes up with a vengeance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot mask a core piece of your identity forever.
Right.
It's just not how it works. Right. And that doesn't have to mean your gender. That doesn't have to mean that you're transgender. It doesn't have to mean that you're gay or a lesbian. It could be, I don't like going to church. I don't like the steamed broccoli my mother makes. I mean, there are things that you can mask.
Who you are. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter who you are. It is just who you are. Who am I?
Right.
Not even just sexually, gender-wise, just who am I? What do I need? What do I want? I remember just a real quick story. When I met my husband, I said to him when I first met him, I said, I'm going to tell you exactly who I am, what I need, what I want, and we're going to have that conversation. And I didn't want to hide any part of me, because in a marriage or even in a relationship, if you're not able to be 100% who you are, and I'm not just talking about personal physical relationships, business relationships, friendships, then you're not real. You're not giving others the special person that you are.
Right.
So,
and you, I think you atrophy. I think you atrophy when you do that.
Yeah.
Because it was 2021, and I had a really big breakdown. Well, I've always struggled with mental health. I actually got much better when my son was born. I cleaned up a lot. I started meditating. I started running again. I used to like to run, so I started running again.
Almost like you have something to live for, something to
yes,
be for.
Yes, well, right. Because I figured if I don't, I was really surprised when I hit 30, for what it's worth. I remember my 30th birthday, which incidentally, my wife came to my 30th birthday before we were dating. But I remember being at my 30th birthday thinking, I would have certainly guessed I would have died of some STD, some overdose, done it myself. Yeah. But I didn't. I made it. And so I was 41. Yes, 41 when our son was born. And I thought I better clean up or I'm not going to see this kid get to high school. Just a quick aside. My son's first day of high school is today.
Is today?
It's today, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Right? So I did it. Right. I didn't think that. Right. I didn't think that when I was telling the story, but so in any event, I thought, I'm not going to make it. So I cleaned up, buried everything as deeply as I could. And it was 2021 comes along. My kid's now 10 years old. And I would have been 51. And I had this big, huge breakdown. And my wife takes me aside and goes, listen, I think you need to explore your gender identity. And I said, no, cannot do that. I cannot do that. Because boys need fathers and fathers are men. Just kept going through my head. I couldn't stop that continuing phrase in my head.
Societal standard of what it means to be a man.
It is absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely. And I agree with you. So, but I, when she said I needed to do that, I took a step back and I started really, really thinking. And 2022 was definitely a tumultuous year. I can say that much. But so yeah, do you want me to jump into that story?
In 2025, and you're celebrating a Hoochiversary. So
Hoochiversary.
Obviously, you've been through a lot the last few years, and so this whole journey that you've been through exploring your gender, you're finally at a place, hopefully it looks like, that you're happy and you're being true to you. And so what kind of surprised you most about this whole post-op situation that you've been through, and how are you feeling? Emotionally, spiritually?
Well, spiritually, I feel very whole.
Wonderful.
Yeah. There was something I did. The biggest thing that I didn't expect, and there's just getting to the point where I transitioned was tough. But one thing that I didn't expect, because there's a whole story there that if you want, I can tell. But I never expected to get surgery because I just didn't think I needed it. Right. I was mostly okay with my body, I thought. But then at some point, maybe a year or two in, I remember I was being intimate with my wife. So, but I remember looking down and going, oh, I wish I had one of those. And then going, oh my gosh, I can get one of those, first of all. And then went, I didn't realize I wanted that. So yes. And we went to Thailand to get it done because perhaps the United States healthcare systems, Yeah.
No need to
Just
stay
the grim
anymore.
Mm. So
Yeah.
I went to Thailand, which was a phenomenal experience, by the way.
Wonderful.
Really, really, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've heard great things.
And I've considered moving there now for what it's worth. That's how beautiful I think Thailand is, especially to the transgender community.
Right.
But the question you asked, the biggest difference, the biggest surprise, I think you asked. I remember I was just reading on the, I was lying in bed reading. So we went to Thailand, we came back, we were there for a month, and it was probably September or so. So maybe 6 weeks after surgery. And I'm reading on my bed and I go, oh, well, I got to go pee. Put my book down. I went and peed and I came back and I picked my book up and I went, I said, how amazing it is that I can just put my book down and go pee. And my wife looks at me and goes,
it's the little things.
And she goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's not, I mean, it was because it wasn't just like go and pee, because it used to be, and this is, before I went and got surgery anyway. So up to the point where I had surgery, put down the book and then I go into the bathroom and lift up my skirt. Right. And now I'm looking at something that I didn't realize was a pain, but was. I got to disentangle myself from a pair of panties. And I got to sit down, and you sit down and you pee and you realize this doesn't sound quite right. Because once I realized, no, I do want to have one of those. Right. Anytime I went to the bathroom, I'm like, this is awful. And then you put, you have to shake, right? There's no like getting the tissue and cleaning up, pull the panties up and you got to rearrange yourself at least a little bit. And then you got one more shot of that guy. Yeah. Before you drop the skirt down. I did not realize, and this is just going pee once, right?
Right. That you could just pull down, wipe, and then go back up and go back to bed.
Yeah. I didn't realize there was so much energy that I had invested into something, into a piece of my body that I didn't care for. And it was not even clear. And how many times do you go pee every day? If you're drinking enough water, 6-8 times a day, right? Mm-hmm. Multiply that from 52 to the end of my life, even if it was just that, right? 30 years, that's a long time.
It was like an aha moment for you.
It was. There was a tremendous release of energy that I didn't realize I had wrapped up in not caring for a part of my body.
It's amazing how sometimes it just takes one experience or one moment for it to click.
Yeah.
And it's something so which you might think, okay, pee, what's the big deal? But one little thing like that can just make a difference in your happiness, your psyche, your feeling about who you are. That's great.
Yeah. Released a ton of energy. I didn't recognize, I had invested elsewhere. So that was the biggest surprise for sure.
Well, I do want to get into a little bit of juicy stuff if we can.
Okay.
Because obviously, when we have the potential for surgery, and like you said, not everybody who is transgender needs to, wants to, has to, or has the ability to. But if it's something that's along their journey, I do know personally quite a few people that are transgender, and a concern is how everything works after. And so was that a concern for you? And how is your body functioning now, if you don't mind me asking, about how, if you're getting orgasms, how they feel, and how you're connecting to yourself sexually?
Oh, I think that was probably
that's a good sign.
Well, probably my biggest concern was, will I be able to have an orgasm? Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, I know I've spoken to people who got vaginoplasties and went, it doesn't look quite right. I'm going to tell you, I thought to myself, listen, as long as it doesn't look like,
who gives a shit what it looks like?
Yeah. Well, I get people who, right. There are people who say, well, listen, I want it to look like a cisgender vagina.
Right.
And I understand that. My main goal was just to get rid of
pleasure.
Twig and two berries, and still be able to get an orgasm. So that meat and two veg, as long as I got rid of that, I'm cool. And then I was concerned about an orgasm. So I didn't really care how it looked ultimately, but I was very concerned about orgasms because I really like sex. I'll just say that. I find it difficult sometimes, when people go, hey, I'm not that into it. And I'm like, huh, gonna
You
have to
do
move
you.
on. Yeah. Or don't do you, I suppose. Don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your affair. So I'll say this much. So I got the surgery. You walk around. We don't walk around. I laid in bed in Thailand for a week.
Mm.
When I was telling I ended up with a relationship with the hospital in Thailand because I did a whole vlog series of I'm going to Thailand. Here's me actually getting there. I think I actually did a video the day I got surgery.
Oh,
Maybe.
wow. Mm-hmm.
I was, by the time I got there, people were like, now I'm interested. How's it going to work out?
Right.
So I started doing that. But then I laid in bed in Thailand for a week because this is what they do. So I was going to say, I got this relationship with the hospital, and I took, because the hospital, the one of the directors at the hospital said, well, how would this have worked in the United States? And I said, I would have gotten a night in the hospital and they would have sent me home. And he looked outraged and went, wait, what? That's dangerous. And I said, yeah,
that's healthcare.
I mean, this is right. But I stayed there for 8 days after surgery. Yeah, it was, and I couldn't wait to get out. By the way, by the time I was going home,
of course, but at least you knew you were safe and there was support.
Oh my gosh,
you needed.
Yeah.
Procedure, yeah.
It was. This is part of why I'm saying it was so amazing. But I don't know where I was going to go. Oh yeah. So anyway, I had a catheter. Once the catheter came out, I will say this: that first shower was the weirdest. Oh my! It was so, because I'm just going like this. I'm like, oh, I'm going to wash my armpit, right?
Right.
Because I should mention I got a little bit of augmentation, not much, but I got a little bit just to sort of fill in like a little bit of cleavage there. But I go to wash my arm and I'm like, what the?
What happened?
I got home. It was like, I got more stuff there. That's weird. Then I'm like, okay, wash. And I was just like, I got nothing to wash. It was the greatest feeling. I was like,
no, I know what you mean. I
know. Because I learned that later on,
Come on.
Yes. No, I learned that later on that it's just a difference.
Well, that's interesting because you have to learn how to clean something different. I mean, it's almost like when you have kids and then you have a boy or a girl and they have the different parts and you're like, okay, well, I've always cleaned with a boy. Now what do I have to do with a girl? Do I open it? Do I stick it? What do I do?
Right.
Yeah.
I totally had to. At some point they go, listen, we want you to go learn how to pee again. And I was like, I'm probably cool with that, But the first time I sat down, I was like, how come I'm not peeing? What's weird is that they were the muscles. I don't know how to put this. When you have a penis, you use different muscle. You have to relax certain muscles to let flow go, and tighten other muscles in order to push everything out.
I'm doing that right
reverse it.
I'm
right. For me, it reversed, or it seemed like it reversed entirely.
Huh.
So what I needed, so I felt like I was trying to hold it in order to go pee. It was the weirdest. So I had to learn this.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it took me not a really long time, 3 or 4 days before, I was okay. But that was a very strange thing. They also told me, and Dr. Warapon, if you're out there, sorry to be telling this story. They told me don't touch anything for about 3 months.
Yeah,
3 months. Well, there was one day, it's about 6 weeks in. It was about 6.5 weeks in. The family was out of the house, and I thought, what would happen? Right? I'm not going to touch anything.
To my doctor.
But I think, I'm not going to touch much. Right? I'm just going to kind of feel around. Just
the tip.
Yeah. What do we have down there? Let's see what's going on. And I had the most mind-blowing orgasm I have ever had in my entire life.
Wow.
I continue, I'm breathing shallowly now, just thinking about this. It was so, now I'm sorry, now I'm stammering. Anytime I talk about this,
All right, we're all getting a little.
I'm gonna need to open the door if you don't mind. Give me a sec. Every time I talk about this, I start to stammer because it's hard to describe.
Well, it's like
when I
everything
was
came together.
Yes.
There's
I mean, because when I first started hormone therapy, let me start with that. Because when I started hormone therapy, I stopped having orgasms that were like body centric, like part centric. Maybe I should say that. And it started turning more body centric, and I was like, wow, like my whole body responds to this now, and it's phenomenal. And then I started getting became almost like spiritual. Like it became this, like not just not just body, but even almost spirit kind of response.
Experience, like a full body experience. Yeah.
And that was before I had surgery. So now when I do have an orgasm, and I love them because just,
Why
not? Yeah. All right, there we go. Now we need to go open the door again, but they're so amazing because they just feel, I don't know. It feels like the only way I can describe this, and it's not going to make sense, but I'm going to say it because this is what I have been trying not to say, but I feel like it's like I recognize it. It's like a sense of almost coming home. I don't know how to.
No pun intended. Coming home.
Right. I didn't mean that. But it's kind of like that. Like I it's like I recognized it, but I knew I couldn't, but I knew I did. And I knew that it was the kind of sensations that I should have had, but I didn't. So, I mean, I don't know if this makes any sense. I don't want to say like it felt
to you. That's all that matters. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it does. It's because I think when you go through this journey of just not being you and having to suppress who you are, and then all of a sudden having this experience that just made sense and allowed you just to connect the mind, the body, the spirit, the energy, everything that made you you. And once again, goosebumps. It totally makes sense as to why you would feel this way. And I can only imagine you just sitting there. Not that I'm picturing you afterwards, but I'm picturing you afterwards, just sitting there, just going, this is me. Like, just, wow.
Yes. After that very first one, I just laid there thinking, this is how it's going to be for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
For the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
And I may have touched myself the next day, but possibly the day after.
And we won't tell the doctor that either.
I only said may, Dr. Warapon. Don't.
Well, it's good to know because, and then I'm going to just go to a quick commercial break. It's good to know that you can have the surgery and experience happiness, pleasure, because that is a fear for a lot of people who are transgender. And one of the reasons why they may not want to go through the surgery, especially if they've had orgasms for years and then they're doing it later in life, there's that fear. So you're giving people hope and possibility to know that you could have it, if not even have it better than it was before, because you're doing it as you.
Right. It is so much better now. So much. I think I just put a period there. You wanted to go to commercial, so I should probably
just do a quick commercial and then we'll come back and finish chatting because I'm loving this conversation. Be back in a minute.
If you enjoy these podcasts with Dr. Stacy, imagine the results you can get from a personal coaching session. As a clinical sexologist and certified sex coach with over 2 decades of experience, Dr. Stacy helps people just like you reignite passion, explore their desires, and break through blocks that may be holding you back, solo or with a partner. Whether you're struggling with communication, desire mismatch, performance anxiety, or simply want to feel more confident and connected in your sex life, Dr. Stacy is here to help. She offers a complimentary 15-minute consult so you can see if working together feels right. Visit drstacyfriedman.com to schedule your free call today, and let's take your passion to the next level.
So we're back, and since this is such a great conversation we're having, I'm skipping my second commercial. So we're only going to do one, and I want to talk a little bit about the last couple of things that I want to talk about. Is you had said you were married, so I want to just help people understand that there is hope in a marriage as well when you transition. And then I also want to find out a little bit about your background and how people can find you as well. So give us a little background about you being married. And, you know, you said before you transitioned, you were married, and now that you transitioned, you're still married to the same person. So how did you navigate that? And how did your partner sexually try to navigate that as well? If your partner doesn't mind you talking about her.
No, and she knows that we were going to have this conversation.
Okay.
But and for what it's worth, I did a whole live stream on my own.
Okay, good.
Talking about some of this. So I mentioned when we a very first date, you know, she knew that I was transgender.
Right.
So the other thing too about the two of us, let me get there. So she knew this about me. And when in 2021, when she said, please go explore this, I told you that I told her no. I said, no, I can't do this. By about May of 2022, I remember we had a conversation, and I said, listen, I had a metaphor. I had like a whole story. I said, because we both grew up in Los Angeles. And if you grew up in Los Angeles in like the 70s or 80s, you know, because it's a big thing to go and get the hose, right? You're in this, it's summertime, it's like a bajillion degrees, whatever it is. If you're not using Freedom units, that's about a bajillion degrees centigrade. It's pretty close. I don't know what the conversion is between bajillions, but getting the hose. Anyway,
we're talking math.
I know, I'm sorry.
Sex, brain, math doesn't work together.
You've got the hose though. It's hot. You go like, oh my gosh, this is great. Pour it over your head, maybe something like that. And so I said, you know, I'm thinking about expressing, because right at the beginning of 2021, I said, oh, well, then fine. I'm going to let my hair grow out. Because I used to have very long hair, waist length hair when I was in graduate school, dyed black, blue black, and I had lovely eyeliner all the time. So I remember I painted my toenails. I was letting my hair grow. And I said, we're talking in May. And I said, listen, I feel like it's summertime in LA. And I turned on the hose, right? And I got a little drink and I'm like, oh, this is so great. Oh my gosh. I was so tired. I was so thirsty. And so I put a little bit over my head. And then I was feeling a little bit better. And then I realized the water is coming more and more out and out and out. And suddenly I looked at the spigot and like the top pops off of the spigot. And then the spigot itself comes flying off of the house. And I'm just laughing and dancing in this water that's, you know, coming out at me. And I'm turning around going, oh, old man Johnson's going to be pretty mad at all that water going down there. But I don't care because I'm so happy. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm going to cry 1 second. I said, I'm sorry. I can't put the water back. And she said, okay, well, pardon me, sorry.
Okay.
She said, well, then I think it's time for you to transition. And I said, oh, really? You would let me do that? And she said, no. You have to let yourself do it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So July 7th, I put on my first patch, my first estrogen patch. I had my wife sit there when I went to the clinic. I worked with somebody online the whole time, right, and continue to work with somebody online, which I highly recommend. if you struggle to find gender affirming care, there are many places that can do it over the internet. Anyway, I didn't really want to do it. Still didn't really want to do it, even though I couldn't put the water back.
It's a big commitment.
It is. It's a huge commitment. And every step that I've taken, I've gone to my wife. Are you sure this is okay? Are you sure this is okay? Are you sure? And every time she's said yes. And we've now gotten to a point where, you know, we're just two women walking down the street holding the hands. And sometimes we get a funky look, although generally it's for my hair.
Right. I hear you.
Women, right.
I get it too.
Not two women holding hands anymore, but navigating the relationship was much easier than I thought.
Well, you had a supportive partner, and not everybody does.
No.
And just because you may not have a partner that supports you, or not supports you, but supports the transition, not everybody is able to stick with their partners because it's just not something that either connects or resonates with them. Doesn't mean that they're not approving of the transition. It just means they may not be able to be there for the ride.
Yes.
And you got very lucky to have a partner that understood that love was more important than what's on the outside.
Right.
You know, and that's incredible.
A quick story there, because in 2001, a few things came together. That's not all that important, but the beginning of 2001, I realized, you know, I don't have any responsibilities. I had been dating who's now my wife for 8 months or so, right? Something like that. But I had no other responsibilities. I had a bunch of money. And I remember I sat her down on the floor and I said, I think I'm going to transition gender. This was 2001. And she said, oh, okay. I mean, I love you for you, so go at it. My family might think it's a bit weird, but we'll handle it. And we hadn't even been dating for a year, I don't think. So I was going to do it, but it was really difficult, even in law, through a lot of obstacles. And so obviously I didn't. So she was well aware that this was, you know, a possibility, if nothing else.
Possibility, right. And she, even at 8 months, she was still there.
Right. I think intimacy, we have navigated intimacy. I think I've made it worse because I don't know how to put this. Before I got surgery, once I started transitioning, it was my, I'm struggling. I apologize. And I'm not even crying either. I struggled to connect. I struggled to connect sexually. It was strange because I'm looking at my body, my skin's getting softer. You know, my hips visibly widened. I mean, I responded to estrogen much better than most people at 52 would have. There's a biochemical reason I won't go into, but so I'm looking at my body and I'm looking at my face changing and my hair growing, and I, you know, I'm looking at myself going, well, I love how I'm changing, but I really felt uncomfortable with my body changing, but then there still being parts that were indicative of, you know, the last 52 years, especially 22 years of us being together. So intimacy was difficult because I had this cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, trying to figure out the connection of mind to body. That's not easy. But it sounds like you've been exploring more than your doctor said you should have. So you were able to find your body a little bit better.
Yes.
And so, you know, for people that are wanting, I just wanted to get a little advice from you and then we can close out. But for people that are wanting to transition and live more authentically, not even necessarily surgical, but just to be who they are, you know, even if it means the staying away from or straying away from the societal expectations, what kind of advice would you give? And then I want to hear just a little bit about you and how people can find you if they're interested in reaching out to you.
For what it's worth, I think the two stories are intertwined. Because when I started transition, I started writing, and I've never been a writer like in my life. I never thought that I would want to write, but I started writing about my own story, and I thought, well, I'm just writing for myself, and that's fun. But then I had other people who read what I wrote because I posted it on Medium, and they said, "Oh yeah, this is my story too." And I thought, "Oh well, okay, I'm talking about the transgender experience." And then I had other, as I started thinking about outside gender, when it turned into sexuality or identity, I had gay and lesbian and bisexual and everything else come up to me and go, "Oh yeah, that totally is my story." And so I thought, great, so I've got a queer type story here. And then the more I thought of it, I was like, well, but everybody, I don't care who you are, cisgender, transgender,
Right.
gay or straight, you have to look inside and see who you are. I think we both discover and develop that. Unless you try to experience something, you're not going to know if you like it, right? I mean, you can't. Do you like broccoli? Who knows? I haven't eaten it, So you have to experience, and then you have to continue experimenting.
Right.
And I know that sounds. I mean, at this point, it sounds almost, superficial what I'm talking about. But I think that is the human experience.
Yeah. I think people need to know that first step. And you also do hypnotherapy driven work, right, on identities. So
yeah,
obviously that's going to help people navigate the transformation as well.
Yes.
Right. So tell us just a little bit of how that works and how people can find you if that's something that they want to do.
Yeah. The way I never, I was in management for a long time. So I was a chemist, then I was in technology, and then I was in management in technology. And I never thought I was good at talking to people. Never thought I was outgoing, never thought that I was at all, whatever. Effusive, there's the word I was looking for. I don't know who talks like that, but
you're doing fine now.
right? So I never thought that's who I was. But once I transitioned, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can talk to people. I can write. I can be vulnerable, because all of a sudden, I felt like myself, and I was happy to share this story. So when I went through my transition, so you mentioned I had my first Hoochiversary back in July there.
Right.
I love that. So we came back from Thailand in August. So where was I going with that? Anyway, had my first anniversary of the surgery, and that would have been, so sorry, I'm trying to, my whole transition took from July 7th of 2022 to July 11th of 2024.
Okay.
So it was 2 years and 4 days. If you ask most transgender people, they take 3 years, 5 years, a decade to do this. I never thought that was a big deal, but I completed a social transition in about 6 months, and then a medical transition 18 months later. And I didn't think this was a big deal, but anybody I spoke to was like, how the hell did you do that so fast? And I said, well, I just made a list. And they said, well, how did you know what to put on the list? And I said, I did a little bit of research. How did you know what research to do? And I thought, oh, this is why I've been good at planning projects as a manager, is because I see a bigger picture. And I did that for myself, and then just
now I can help others.
I didn't think I would do that, but kind of on a lark, I started talking to people. Well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And then I realized I'm just doing the same process I did as an executive. You look at high level business requirements, you come up with major goals, you set milestones, you put together a project plan, and then you get regular status reports. And I recognize this is a gender transition, but now that's what I do. That's my actual occupation. And then in 2025, I've added hypnotherapy into it. And the reason I did is because I think there are two major obstacles to gender transition. And you mentioned them, actually, by the way, and I love that you did. The first is just acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I am transgender.
This is me. Right.
And that's it. Yes. But then also believing that you're allowed to. That's the next big one.
Giving permission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And hypnotherapy is stunning at breaking down some of these low-level, subconscious behavioral patterns that we hold in ourselves. We continue to do them. It's the way our mind works. It's not our fault, but that's why hypnotherapy is actually very, very useful for that.
Change the message, basically, in your mind.
Right. So that's what I do. And I mean, so you've seen there's a website that's down there, purplepawclan.com. That's how you can get in touch with me.
All the information will also be in the show notes as well, in case people can't actually see the visual.
Thank you.
So
Good.
check
it is strange. Over the course of my own transition, I ended up building sort of a network of people that I know, as well as like other transgender women and men that I know, and people who just like voice therapy people, now surgery. I mentioned I have a relationship with a hospital in Thailand. Hormone therapy people. I mean,
source for so many people, for so many opportunities. Yeah.
So I didn't plan that. It all just kind of happened, and I realize now. I mean, as goofy as this may sound, and I hope I don't sound all hippy dippy, but once I started writing, so I put on that first patch July 7th, 2022. I published my first article October 7th, 2022. So three months in, by about November, I was like, and now I realize what my life's purpose is. And my life's purpose is to change the way that people think about identity and change the way that people think about gender. That we're not just a body, we're not just our psychology, we're not just our society, but we're a complex of all three, and a spirit and spiritual beings as well. And
I love that.
So that's where I've gone. It's the weirdest thing to be a chemist and talk about some of these.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, a lot of times we get into our careers or our life work because of experiences. And I feel like that is the same with me. And I'm like, well, why am I a sexologist? I had my own personal issues that made me say, you know what, we need more people out there, because I didn't get the help I needed when I needed it because there weren't enough people. And my experience led me to where I am today, just as your experience leads you. And that's what probably makes you so successful and so knowledgeable and just being out there to make that difference for people who really need it.
Yeah. I spent 52 years in pain, and I hope that I can reduce that duration for people who come after.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Stop, you keep giving me goosebumps. I love it. But I really, Amy, I appreciate you coming here with such honesty, intelligence, joy, purple hair, keeping us from the, post-op pleasure to the science of identity, and just remembering that, discovering who we are sexually, emotionally, spiritually is not just brave, it's essential.
Yes.
And not just a check box to be this, I'm a male, I'm a female, this. It's a journey, and it deserves celebration and not shame. So really, really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
I look forward to keeping in touch. So thank you very much. So that is it for this episode of the Purple Passion Project with my Purple Passion friend, where we keep it real with just the right amount of spice. If today stirred something in you, let it. And if you love what you heard, subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms, on my YouTube at Dr. Stacy Friedman. And if you're ready to go deeper, follow me all over social media at Dr. Stacy Friedman for resources, tips, a place to find fun adult products, or just personal support. Until next time, stay curious, stay turned on, and never apologize.
This has been the Purple Passion Project with host Dr. Stacy Friedman. Tune in each week as Dr. Stacy breaks down walls, busting myths, and gives you permission to want more with no shame, no filter talk. Check in every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, on your favorite streaming platforms. We look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to visit drstacyfriedman.com to learn more.